You guys asked for a little more body shot science and a deeper dive on the 5 techniques I shared at the end of the last video. So here it is. These are 5 ways to stay safe in the pocket while you dig around for a nice, tasty liver. Freddie Roach famously once said that only suckers get hit with right hands.
Only suckers get hit with right hands.
Now that's a bit of an overstatement, of course, but we get it. The cross is tough to land, and a defensively responsible opponent will give you remains one of the best lead-ins for the liver shot, as the end position leaves you perfectly loaded on the front hip, close to the target and ready to fire. Sticking with our aim to miss concept from part 1, today we're going to discuss how we can use the mechanics of the cross, which flow so perfectly into the liver shot, to set up safe, high percentage body punches, as well as plenty of other options, without having to wait around for some sucker who allows himself to be hit. The mechanics used for the forearm control cross are identical to your standard slipping cross mechanics in almost every way. Drive off the back foot as you twist the heel, hip, torso, shoulder, and arm together, shifting the weight and head over your lead leg, bending the knees slightly. All pretty standard advice so far. The major difference here is that we're not punching, so the focus shouldn't be on hitting a scoring area or generating max power, but instead should be on changing head slots and acquiring forearm control, placing the upper arm, the bottom of the wrist, or the open palm on the opponent's head or glove to trap and off balance. This technique is used to cover the transition into the inside slip position, loading the left hook and plenty more punches besides, while keeping the opponent's cross offline or held in the holster. In fact, from the moment you initiate the slipping motion towards that inside slip position, with or without a forward and diagonal step with the lead foot, this forearm control cross extends, placing defensive traffic in the way of high-risk punches, namely the cross here, and putting rear arm parries, L-guard lifts, and elbow flips in play. By the time your head slot has changed and you've secured that inside slip position, you'll have your forearm and hand in the opponent's space, maybe trapping their hands completely, or at least making a mess of things, crowding and entangling their hands while getting your long guard pries and parries in play. In short, this simple setup adds multiple layers of defense, creating a feint that also puts defensive traffic out and long guard disruptions into play, while you slip right into your attack position. Now today we're talking about body punching, so I'm going to focus on this liver punch setup, but you can also use this combination of the inside slip mechanic and forearm control cross to set up all sorts of different openings and exits. This includes pretty much all of the L-guard functionality discussed in our Mayweather Inside Fighting video, only this time these tools are deployed with the rear hand. Now you don't have to throw the forearm control cross to get forearm control. You can either find this point of control on the forearm off of a really bad miss to deny your opponent's counter, break their posture, and hold them in place for another body attack, or right after a successful hit, in which case you give the opponent zero chance to recover, pressing your advantage of a hit, using that split second to secure more control and keep the liver shot open. Whether you landed your cross or missed badly, the end position leaves weight on your lead leg, with the body and rear arm rotated forward and your head over the lead knee or hip. This is more or less the inside slip position, so taking forearm control from here is pretty easy, in the same way it's easy to throw a quick jab-like right hand when you've already rotated onto the lead hip. So every now and then, after a big hit or a big miss, instead of recovering the cross as normal, where you cross back over the attack lines to return to a roughly 50-50 position, stay put and find control with the forearm. If you already know how to make opponents miss, this is a good way to make them pay. But before we start, you may be interested to know that this technique can be countered by forearm control, because it eliminates or at least complicates this mirror counter. You'll find that in almost every clip I show here, the committed shot that's being mirror countered did not use forearm control to recover after the miss. Had they done so, this mirror counter would not have been available. So here's the bones of the idea. Whenever your opponent commits and you defend, there is a brief window of opportunity where you can attack back with that same hand, with any punch that takes you offline, in a way that's relatively safe for you and very dangerous for your opponent, using what we're calling a mirror counter. Again, forgive my dumb nicknames, they're just mnemonics, and if you've got a better one, use it. Or better yet, share it in the comments so I can sound cooler. In this case, the term mirror counter refers to our countering with the same hand our opponent used to attack. Why does this work? Well, because power punches require commitment, and recovering from that commitment takes extra time. This is why max power and max combination speed, not punch speed, but the ability to chain multiple shots together, usually don't mix. The harder you punch, the more you commit to the weight shift and the rotation, and that means it will take longer to get you back in position to throw or defend the next punch. Second, by returning fire with the same hand, mirroring the opponent's attack, and changing head slots as you throw, you stay safer in the pocket. As you slip and punch to the body, you'll move across the dead lane, the one that's currently clear of any threats, because the opponent's hand is too busy recovering. You'll also move away from the live hand, the one that's still in position to punch. If you commit to the counter shot with good rotation, you'll actually finish outside of that recovering hand and too close and off center for an optimal impact with the live hand. Now this is technically a back end counter, as you're committing with defense first, ideally rotating with a turn block or shoulder roll or slip, and then returning fire on the back end of this exchange. However, this move also has front end counter potential should the opponent choose to punch with the live hand. If they do, your chances of coming out on top are good, since they are now on your counter punch timing and your head's already moving someplace else. You can mirror counter punches from either hand, but of course you don't always need to go to the body. Although personally, I do find it easier to sneak short-range uppercuts to the body as I slip hard to the left or right, since head-level attack lanes may be crowded by the opponent's punch or the arm that they're retracting. If you do intend to go to the body, I recommend using some type of defense that will lower your levels, putting you closer to the start position you'll need to get off with the body shots. So that could be a duck, or a slip with a level change, or failing that, you can just make a conscious effort to drop your levels and bend the knees a little bit as you execute your standard block or parry. To acquire this head in, hips back position, change levels, and place the top of the forehead where the hairline begins against the opponent's guard, neck, jaw, or cheek as a point of contact and control, to create opportunities to spam body shots with impunity. The head in, hips back position gives you a way to control your opponent's hands and posture hands free, while also making the space you need to punch and keeping your head much too close to be targeted. In this position, the head pressure is not passive, but rather needs to be used quite actively to disrupt balance and posture. Think about lifting the opponent, driving up into their guard or neck or cheek to keep them held up tall while you get low and scoot the hips back. This head in, hips back position gives you leverage and space for your body shots while taking it away from the opponent. In short, that upward head pressure will stop your opponent from getting low, so they can't just sit down and trade body punches with you on even terms. As I've already mentioned, the best thing about this position is that it leaves your hands free for all kinds of mischief, and you're certainly not limited to throwing body punches. You also don't need to secure the exact inside angle that Triple G takes with his forehead on the cheek and his body off the line but angled on target. Even more squared up with the head on the guard, not the neck or cheek, this works just fine.
Position is everything in wrestling. Even if I don't have a ton of offense, if I have great positioning, no matter what he has, it's tough for this guy to score me. Underestimated most times is using your head for defense. And defense is head, hands, hips, right?
Micky Ward's classic left hook to the head, left hook to the body combination deserves a place in your arsenal of body punch setups, but so too does this variation. So why is this Micky Ward mix-up so effective? And why would you bother with this if you've already got the classic Micky Ward combo down pat? Well, for starters, it works for all the same reasons as the classic version. It breaks the predictable left-right pattern for both punching and defense, and it exemplifies the aim to miss theory we discussed in our last video, launching a diversionary attack at a non-scoring area, in this case the high guard or high blocking rear glove, to draw the hand out of position and create an opening. But this version arguably works even better because in addition to all these benefits seen with the Micky Ward Classic, this Micky Ward mix-up both disrupts posture and varies the angle of attack. If the lead uppercut lands, then great. Your opponent will almost certainly be open for a liver shot with their eyes knocked up and their mind on getting hit. But even if they block the shot successfully, there's a really good chance that it will break their posture, as the force of the shot travels upward and momentarily lifts them out of their perfect fighting stance. This minor posture break won't win the fight outright, but it will slow the opponent's response time and disrupt any potential counters for that brief window. Of course, this is going to make it much easier to land that follow-up liver shot consequence-free. Additionally, in order to successfully defend this Micky Ward mix-up, your opponent not only has to adjust to the punching pattern change to left-left, and the level change from high to low, but now there's also a change in the attack angle that they have to worry about. Now your opponent has to go from covering the upper middle lane where that uppercut will travel to defending the lower outside lane where the left hook will slam home. This extra adjustment will add a little bit of defensive travel time that'll increase your odds of landing that liver shot flush. The chicken wing technique has been covered pretty extensively in another video, and please check it out because so far compared to our other stuff, this one has been neglected and it's really one of my most high percentage techniques. The name, which is just another dumb mnemonic, refers to the shape and movement of your arm, which kind of looks like the way you'd flap your arm dancing the funky chicken. And there's a lot of concept carryover and similarity here with the L guard. But when using the chicken wing, the elbow needs to be tucked up against the body, whereas the L guard will be held further out in front to fight off or deter incoming shots. So here's the basics. You start in a shoulder to shoulder or shoulder to guard position with the lead hand held low and the forearm tucked in tight between you and your opponent. Bumping in will take you here, so watch that video if you haven't yet. It's a great starting point. From this start position, I use a full body movement, rotating my hips and torso as I flare the chicken winging arm out. The combined rotation of the body would shift the weight towards the back foot, almost like a lead hook as the shoulder turns through, lets you shift opponents backwards, off balance, with one arm free, loaded, and ready to punch, without having to blow energy on a big shove. Now it's important that you don't move the opponent too far backwards, and you'd be surprised by how far you can fling people with this, as well as by how little distance it takes to spoil your follow-up attack. Try to move them back just enough. You shouldn't create obvious, notable space between you and the opponent, but instead just rock them back on their heels, maybe a couple inches, just enough room to thread that body shot in between. To understand why this technique is so effective, we only have to think back on what's already been said today about posture breaking and hand trapping and off balancing. The chicken wing does it all. You get all of the forearm control and hand trapping goodness from tip 1 right up until the point you're ready to work, at which point the chicken wing both lifts the opponent out of fighting posture and shifts them back onto their heels for a split second, making it harder to throw weight forward with a rear-handed counterpunch. And should they choose to try punching with the lead hand, they'll be opening up the body on the side you're attacking. The chicken wing off-balancing technique can be used to set up body punches with either hand, but if you are intending to punch with the lead hand, you'll need an extra beat to rotate the body back and load the punch. That's it for now, guys. I hope you got some value out of these 5 body punching tips, and on behalf of the short boxing team, as well as myself, eBoxing Academy, we would really appreciate if you took a second to like, comment, or subscribe if you haven't already. It all really helps channels like ours. Thanks again, and until next time, happy training.